Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. Manchester United versus Newcastle United preview at Newcastle. Football's back, and what better way for it to be back than a really big test for United against Newcastle. Look at that league table next to me. They're only 3 points behind us. If they were to win this game, it's same points, same games played, but they'd have a better goal difference. So it's huge for Manchester United. I think in the longer term, we've got the better run in, and I think we will get top four. But for Newcastle, it's a massive game. You know the atmosphere is going to be big. I've seen people likening it to the Liverpool game in Anfield. With all due respect, St James's Park ain't Anfield, and I think some of their fans think they're that, but they're not that yet. And Manchester United need to go there and stamp their authority on the game. It will be difficult. We're going to miss the likes of Casemiro, but we'll get into that. With all due respect again to Newcastle, they've only lost one game at St James's Park this season. They've got the best defensive record in the league. They're going to be hard to break down, and they'll break quick against us, and they'll be energetic. We will have to be careful. And where I would say there's a look, Brentford, Manchester City, Anfield, there is that potential for us to always drop our heads and get absolutely battered, but I think we've got to stop those results from happening, haven't we? I mean, we weren't great against Fulham before the international break, so United definitely need to step it up, and how Ten Hag picks his team I think is going to be very interesting. So we're going to dive into that. First of all, just a bit of a shout out. I've dropped the link in the video description. Going for Goldbridge is back. Some of you will remember what that's all about. The reason I'm mentioning it on the United Stand is because Going for Goldbridge is sort of like, it's a bit like a podcast on a video that I do where I just talk about general things, and it's all about the tour, the United Stand tour, and some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes. A few I think, interesting stories involving travel and getting stuck in a lift. So check it out. The link's in the video description. You might enjoy it, and if you do, subscribe to that channel as well. But also another shout out for Luke Shaw. New contract. I know Beth or Charlie reacted to it earlier. I think Beth did the press conference. Charlie did the reaction. Really pleased about this, Luke Shaw. I think at the start of the season, you might have said, is it worth giving him a 4-year deal? Some people were saying that. You know my stance. I'm a massive fan of Luke Shaw. He was disappointing last season. And, quite rightly, at the end of last season, you would have said about Luke Shaw, what's his future at Manchester United, because it was disappointing. But we said the same about Rashford. We said the same about Bruno. These players are good players, and they've just got to prove that they're good players. And I think Luke Shaw has proven, what a top player he is. I think he's one of the best left backs in the world when he's on it. And let's not forget he's played at left centre back for us this season fantastically well. I think he's a bit underrated and unappreciated, but I think the fan base here at United appreciate him, and it's good that he's committed to United, because ultimately players don't have to be committed to United, and he is. So I'm very pleased about that. Anyway, let's hit the Newcastle game. I'm going to move straight across to the team news. Well, I say the team news. We can give you the team news. This is the team that I would play against Newcastle. So I'll move slightly to my left here. So David De Gea in goal. Well, actually, this is the team I think Ten Hag will play. De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka at right back. Varane has trained, Martinez has trained. I mean, anybody who's thinking about putting Maguire in or Lindelof in is a prat. I mean, look, our season's been built on a strong defence, and that strong defence is because of Martinez and Varane. And the fullbacks and the goalkeeper and Casemiro have been a big part of that. Of course they have, but our best centre-back partnership is Varane and Martinez. And in a game like this, I look at the games that we've got left this season, and we have got to play. I think we've got to go to Spurs. I think we've got to go to Brighton. We've got Chelsea at home, and we've got the Europa League and the FA Cup games. But this would be one of the hardest games we've got left. We can't take it lightly. I've heard people taking it lightly, like going, straightforward, but maybe we can get Martial on for the last 20 minutes when we've won the game. And I'm thinking, I don't see us being comfortable at any points against Newcastle away. I'd probably be very happy with a point, really. But we'll talk about that in a bit. But I don't think it's going to be easy. And I think that's why you've got to build that strong defence. And I look at that defence, De Gea, Wan-Bissaka. I mean, it could be Delo, but either way, Varane, Martinez, Shaw. I look at that back five and I think, that is a solid back five. As long as they don't have a nightmare day like Liverpool, that's a solid back five which we can build upon. The midfield is the big area. We know the front three. It'll be Rashford, Weghorst and Antony. I'd be very surprised if it's not. And there are issues with that front three. How fit's Rashford? Weghorst is a stopgap and Antony's inconsistent. But I think that's the front three to go with, and it's hard to predict what will happen there. You hope Rashford will be what he's been this season and provide a couple of goals. Antony has a good day. But this game's going to be won and lost in the midfield. We know Newcastle's got a good defence. We know our defence is capable and is a good defence as well. And I look at that midfield and I go, well, you know what? I think they're missing Almiron, but they've still got people like St. Maximin, Callum Wilson. But in that midfield, they've got Bruno Guimaraes. They'll have Joel Linton back. Apparently, somebody said to me he's out. I think he's back from his ban. And they've got, they'll probably play Longstaff in there, or Willock, won't they? So they've got a midfield that's worked quite well for them this season. We don't have Casemiro. We've got to construct a midfield that counters their midfield, because this game will be won and lost in the midfield. Both teams have got good defences. So really it's about who gets hold of the ball and who pushes up the pitch, and that will be controlled by the midfield. I think Fred and Bruno have to start. I know Fred can be inconsistent, but this sort of game suits Fred. You just hope he's going to be the good Fred. Bruno's got to play. Whether he plays more advanced or whether he plays a little bit deeper, I don't know, but Bruno's got to get involved in the midfield. And I don't think there is an advanced role in this midfield anyway. I think realistically the midfield is going to have to be quite tight as a three. And then it's just a straight shootout between Scott McTominay and Sabitzer. And I was tempted to put McTominay in there because we know that every manager of Manchester United has this liking for Scott McTominay, which some of us find confusing, but it's not confusing. He's an honest lad. He works really hard. He gives it everything. And that's quite a likeable trait to have. He's not particularly good, but look, McTominay may well play this game. I'm hoping Sabitzer plays, because Sabitzer, look, Bayern Munich bought Sabitzer. Like, he's a very good midfielder. If it's a choice between Sabitzer and Scott McTominay, it should be Sabitzer every day of the week. It's just whether Ten Hag feels that's got the right balance defensively in it. But then McTominay defensively, I think, is quite weak. So it's whether he looks at it aerially then. And I think that's where McTominay could get the edge. You can flip a coin on this. I'd go Sabitzer, Fred and Bruno. I wouldn't be surprised if he went McTominay, Fred and Bruno, because he might look at height. Joel Linton's quite big in the midfield. But then again, the rest of the Newcastle side's not that big. And, we've got Weghorst. If it's a corner, we've got Weghorst. We've got, obviously, Varane's good in the air. But he might just, with no Casemiro there, because Casemiro is really good in the air, I wouldn't be shocked if McTominay starts, and it's because of aerial. Because Newcastle are good aerially. They've got Dan Burn, they've got Botman. I don't know whether that Shah's fit. They've got Longstaff if he plays. They've got Joel Linton. So they've got quite a few big players. So there's your little hint. There's your little spoiler. It probably will be McTominay, because McTominay is good in the air and we don't have Casemiro. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's McTominay, Fred and Bruno. If he goes with Sabitzer, Fred and Bruno, are you leaving yourself a little bit short, literally, when it comes to the aerial battle, which will probably exist? So I'm not surprised if it's McTominay. I'd like it to be Sabitzer because he's a better player, but look, we'll have to wait and see. Is it worth picking somebody just because they're tall? We will see. They're certainly a threat from that. And I think the team sort of picks itself. We heard from Eric Ten Hag saying that Anthony Martial will be back. He has been... Ten Hag says that Anthony Martial has been training for a couple of weeks. I did the maths on that. I'm pretty sure he's been training with the first team longer than 2 weeks, because the international break was 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure we had pictures of him training with the first team 2 weeks before that. So, I don't know what that 2 weeks is all about. But look, he said he's going to be part of the travelling squad, and that's the main thing. He was asked a direct question in the press conference about Martial. If he'd said Martial's not going to be part of the squad, there would have been a big question there as to what the hell's going on, because he's been training for weeks. So he is going to be part of it. We've got 3 games in 6 days. We play Sunday, Wednesday, and then Saturday lunchtime. So realistically, it's a very, very quick turnaround. 3 games in 6 days is tough. And there's no way that Martial's going to play 3 games in 6 days. So I'd say Martial is probably going to start 1 of the next 3 games and then cameo in 2 of them. So really, you'd probably go into the Newcastle game with Weghorst. You're going to have to work hard in that game, and Martial's on the bench. So I don't think there's a case to start Anthony Martial, because ultimately there's probably not a coach, player, backroom staff or fan of Manchester United that isn't expecting Anthony Martial to break down in the next week when he comes back. We're all expecting it, so the expectation's low. If Martial can stay fit, brilliant. We are a better team with Martial in it. I don't care what anybody says. We are a better team with Anthony Martial in it. But I don't think anybody expects him to be able to consistently play. So it's a bonus at the end of the day, isn't it? So yeah, that's how I think we'll line up. So get your comments in below what your thoughts are on that. On the game itself, as I said, Newcastle this season, if I just give you this information. So Newcastle this season, for their home record, they're actually 7th. I thought they'd be higher than that. Arsenal have got the best home record. They've played 14 games. They've won 11. They've drawn 2 and they've lost 1. And they've conceded 17 and scored 38. Newcastle, we've got a better record at home than Newcastle actually. We're 4th. We've won 9, drawn 3 and lost 1. Newcastle have won 7, drawn 5 and lost 1. And that's why I'm leaning towards a draw here. They've only lost 1 game at home this season, Newcastle, and I'm struggling to think what it was, because they drew with Man City. I don't think they've played Arsenal yet, so I don't know. Answers on a postcard to who they lost to, but they've only lost 1 game this season. They've conceded 9 goals at home. They've got the best overall defensive record. Away from home for us, we've lost 5, but we've only drawn 2. So it's interesting. I think Newcastle draw a lot of games at home. We don't draw a lot of games away. So it's hard to predict where this is going to go, but I'm going to go with a draw. I quite fancy this game to be a draw. And I you know what? I don't know what people think, but we've got a massive 2 months. We haven't got Casemiro. We haven't got Eriksen. I think that with a weakened midfield, an away game against the Newcastle side that is definitely on the up, I'll give them that. I think a draw would probably be quite a decent result for Manchester United. So I'm going to go with a 1. Well, I'm even going to give you the score. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. But I think it's going to be very interesting, and I think that how Man United look, we don't want to come back off the international break with a loss, but look, I think sometimes the international break can make you quite sluggish. It can make, and it makes us as fans quite sluggish, because when you're wrapped up in this is why I don't like international breaks. When you're wrapped up in the Premier League and there's games going on, you're in the groove and you move in the groove. We've had 2 weeks where Man United haven't played. Like Liverpool Man City tomorrow lunchtime is huge, and people are sort of like not really talking about it because the international break is a passion killer. But that game with Newcastle, if we'd been playing midweek, we'd be building towards this massively. It's a massive game. If they beat us, they're level on points with us. If teams around us like Spurs and everybody and Brighton win, we're right in the we're stuck in it. So we need to get a result here, and it's going to be a big test. But I don't think there'll be many goals in it. We don't draw many away from home. I tell you what, I'd just love to win it 1-0. And look, I look at that Carabao Cup final, and I think, you know what, they were a little bit naive in that game, and we were very professional. Can we game manage a win? But what we don't want to do is give them any encouragement. Newcastle fans, I've never paid much attention to Newcastle fans really. I don't really have a lot of thoughts about Newcastle. When they got the Saudi Arabian ownership, I was like, well, it's a cheat code, but maybe we'll get a cheat code in a few weeks with Qatar. It's like winning the lottery for them. I actually think there's a lot of Newcastle fans online that tweet me and stuff who are actually they're quite horrible. They are quite horrible. So there's a large part of me that would like to win because of that. But look, I don't care if Newcastle get 4th place as long as we get 3rd, and it doesn't massively bother me. And obviously, I'd rather Newcastle got 4th than Liverpool. So look, I'm not really engaged in anything that Newcastle are trying to generate. Obviously they're desperate to be a big club. I get that, but really, I just want to go there and get a positive result and then move on to bigger games. I want, as I say, I wouldn't be opposed to a draw. If we can win, fantastic. But Ten Hag, I've got faith in Ten Hag. I think we all have, and I think there's a way against Eddie Howe to get a result. My only fear of this game is that we just, get overwhelmed. Brentford it happened, Man City it happened, Liverpool it happened. Concede early and head drops. We don't want to get overwhelmed, and I think defensively that shouldn't happen. With Martinez, De Gea, Varane, Luke Shaw, we shouldn't get overwhelmed defensively. The problem with this team is that midfield. The attack can get isolated. We've seen United graveyard shift front three. It's that midfield. We've got to get hold of that midfield, and if it is going to be McTominay, he's got to have a good game. Like, if he starts, fair play. If Ten Hag chooses him, fair play. Just, you've got to have a good game, Scott. Like, you've got to have a good game. You can't be like you were against Fulham. We can't carry you in a game like this. Fred has got to have a good game, and Bruno's got to have a good game. And I think if they do, we'll get a result. But look, it's so exciting the next few weeks. We've got 3 Premier League games in a week. Then we're going to go and play Sevilla. Got an FA Cup semi-final at Wembley. And then you're into May, where hopefully we're going to be securing 3rd place, getting an FA Cup final against City, and a Europa League final, hopefully against Mourinho and Roma. So there's lots to play for. I think this next week is precarious. 3 Premier League games without Casemiro and Eriksen is going to be challenging for that midfield. We know that. But if we can get something against Newcastle, you've got Brentford and Everton at home, and you would hope with the Old Trafford crowd that we can, find a way of winning those games. I'm not even bothered if the football itself isn't that good. It's really about just getting the results in the next 3 games. 7 points from the next 9, happy days. Happy day. I'll be over the moon with that. I don't care who we draw to. I don't care what the 2 wins are. 7 points from the next 9 would be brilliant. This team's capable of getting 9 out of 9, which would be superb. But yeah, it's about getting those points on the board, because even, look, worst case scenario, you lose a couple of those games, and that would be damaging. But even if that happens, you've got Casemiro coming back, which is going to get us right back in the groove. But this team needs to learn to function without Casemiro, and it's a big chance to do that. But don't underestimate it. It's a big game against Newcastle, and I'm looking forward to it. The crowd will be, the atmosphere will be fantastic. That's what they always deliver there. And they will go for us, and we're going to need to be strong, and we're going to need to be focused, and that midfield is going to be really, really important. So, yeah, bring it on. Make sure you smash a like on the video, everybody, and subscribe. I will be back at 10 o'clock with a new show tomorrow morning. But don't forget, I've dropped the link in the description. Check out Going for Goldbridge. A few stories for you from behind the scenes of the tour, how I got stuck in a lift, and a few other bits about travel. It's well worth a watch. You might like it. Leave a comment on it and subscribe to that channel as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Big weekend ahead. And I'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, but I am doing a Liverpool-Man City watch along on That's Football tomorrow lunchtime as well. But check out Going for Goldbridge. Links in the video description. Speak to you all in a bit.